I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us? Yeah.
Kristen Keith is an actress on the rise. She had already been an exceptional professional violinist and even played at a few symphonies locally. But in 2014, she had a change of heart and threw herself into acting, and it's going very well. In that first year, she appeared in almost 20 projects, and she just appeared in a film with Martin Scorsese. The roles seem to keep coming. For the first time anywhere, Kristin talks about what it's like being an actress with Tourette syndrome, and it's very fascinating. I hope you enjoy my chat with the lovely Kristen Keith. Hey, we're back, and we've got Kristen Keith. How you doing?
Very good. I'm really, really happy to be here. I feel honored that you wanted to talk to me.
Well, thank you. So this is kind of new information for me after we set up the interview, but it was fascinating to me. So, to let people know, you're an actress and you are a classically trained violinist, and played in some symphonies. We're going to get to all that. But you're an actor that has Tourette's.
Yes.
So how does that work?
Oh, well, it makes things complicated.
Well, is there different kinds of Tourette? Like, I'm naive about Tourette's.
There are different severities of it. Well, for people who don't know what it is, Tourette syndrome it's a neurological disorder where you have a lot of tics. It can be anything from head movements that you do repeatedly, or facial tics, or things with your voice. While I was growing up with it, in fact, this is the first time I've ever come out like openly to the world that
wow, okay.
that I have this. It's always been something I've tried my best to keep under wraps. People just always thought, well, she's kind of, there's something off about her. She clears her throat a lot, But just so everybody knows, this is what it is. It's Tourette syndrome, and it's just, everybody has tics to some degree.
Sure.
Everybody has little. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people do.
If
but
you even trained it out of yourself.
Someone with Tourette syndrome, it's like, you do it so much to where it interferes with your life. And it's almost like I don't know, it's like your brain is telling you, it's sending signals to do this motion with your head or your face or your hands or whatever. And it's like if you literally have to do it. It's like you even do it when you're not aware of it. And it was the plague of my existence growing up. I was made fun of and school, and people imitating me and stuff like that, but they didn't know what it was. They just thought I just did weird motions with my face and my head. And luckily, it's gotten a lot less as I've gotten older.
Naturally, or you trained yourself out? Or?
Just naturally. I did some reading. I've done reading on Tourette syndrome. Not a lot, but stuff I've read says that for some people, it tends to lessen as you get older. Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine you're holding a violin and your body is telling you to move. Is that like messing up your playing?
Well, now that is, okay, the interesting thing about Tourette syndrome is that when you're highly focused on a performance, or like if it's music, playing an instrument, or acting, it's weird. It goes away while you're performing. And I really think that somebody should do a study on this, because not only does, like when I play the violin or when I'm acting, not only does, like when the director says action and it's time for me to be in character and live as that person for that couple of minutes, that Tourette syndrome goes away. And it's interesting because I don't know what it is about the brain that when you're so highly focused on something that it can make a disability go away temporarily.
I'm curious now because did you recognize that being focused on something made it go away? Is this why you got so into the violin?
No, I was already into the violin. I was already, I didn't know that would happen. I didn't know that it would temporarily make it go away while I was playing or performing. It just was something that it was a nice discovery.
But I mean, did that encourage you to play even more?
No. I think it was just my passion for
just
music.
loved it.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I've met other people in other art forms or other fields of performance that have other disabilities, and theirs go away as well when they're performing. Like I met another actor who's on the autism spectrum. And, a lot of people with autism, a lot of them have trouble with eye contact. In a social setting, they'll avoid eye contact with whoever's talking to them, whoever they're talking to. And so this actor, he had never booked an acting job before. And he finally booked his first acting job. And he was shocked to discover that once he was on set and the director said action and it was time for him to do a scene, one-on-one with another acting partner, the entire time he was able to maintain eye contact.
Wow.
And I mean, that's something that plagued him was not being able to make eye contact. But once you're performing, that symptom is gone. It's
fascinating.
And then I have another friend who is a champion ping pong player, and he has Parkinson's disease. Ooh. And he competes in ping pong with Parkinson's. He's also an actor, and he's also a violinist. Fascinating human being.
Wild.
And wild. He said that when he plays ping pong, his Parkinson's symptoms lessen. It's something about the amount of focus that you have when you are performing or doing something, that artistic or a sport. And that's why I think that someone should really do a study on this type of thing.
If there's any research scientists listening to this podcast, I don't think that's probably going to be the way to get it done, but yeah. It's
kind of a funny story because my great acting buddy, Rob Hudspeth, who you interviewed a couple weeks ago, the first film that he and I worked on together, he and I didn't know each other at the time. And he came into the room and we were about to film a scene. And my big tick these days is clearing my throat. I do it incessantly. People always call me out on it. They're always like, do you need a mint or a throat lozenge? And I'm like, no, it's just something I do. But he came in the room and I'm the other actress in the scene and I'm just clearing my throat constantly. And Rob told me years later that his thought was, oh my gosh, we're going to be here all night. This actress isn't going to get her lines out. She's just, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever.
Oh no.
But then once it was time to do the scene and the director says action, then I broke into this beautiful British accent for the character and delivered my lines perfectly and not a single throat clearing the whole thing.
And you're friends ever since.
Yeah.
Maybe if you had blown it, you wouldn't have been friends. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
Anyway, well, I really appreciate you opening up about that. That's fascinating.
Aww.
And I mean, I watched some of your video clips. I would never
really?
have known that was happening.
Oh, good.
I was like, gosh, you're so intense on film.
Oh, well, thank you.
Let's get to the beginning. I got ahead of myself. That was kind of interesting, but let's.
Right.
Is that your real name, Kristen Keith?
Yes, that's my real name.
Okay.
I have a man's name as my last name.
Well, I mean, it's there's worse, I'm sure. You're an actress, but after doing some research, I realized you're more recently an actress. It's been a minute, but still, you were originally a classically trained musician.
Yes, a violinist.
Okay.
I really dedicated my whole life to that. That's what I did my entire adult life as well as my childhood. I pretty much sacrificed my childhood for it, for that intensive of training. I actually started late. It's considered late as a violinist. I was 12. Most people start when they're 3, who really make a career out of it. But I started at 12, and I just went really head-on serious with it. It was my passion. And when I was 14, I'd only been playing for 2 years, but I'd made so much progress that I got accepted on by a teacher at SMU. And he was a teaching assistant for a man named Ivan Galamian. He's like, he's one of the great violin masters, teachers of our time. And so I
pretty huge then.
Yeah, and so I would practice like I was expected to practice a minimum of 4 hours a day, but in order to be really good, you have to do at least that, if not more. And gosh, I was all through junior high and high school. I would wake up at 4 a.m, practice until it was time to go to school. Then I made sure I had like a one period of the day that was study hall, or I guess now they call it advisory class. It's a class where you can just study during that hour, and I would use that as a time to go into the band hall and practice the violin again. Then during lunch hour, I would practice through lunch, oftentimes, and then come home, put in another 2.5 to 3 hours. And then in the summers, I would go to a music camp in Vermont, and about only 26 people out of the world would be accepted to study there, and I would there in the summers I'd be playing the violin at least about 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day.
Okay, all right. I want to stop you because I want to back up a little bit. There's a lot there, but I'm curious now about a lot of things. First of all, I forgot to ask, you're from Texas?
Well, my early childhood was in Mississippi. You can probably still hear some of the accent.
I was going to say, it's a pretty thick Texas accent. No, it's not a Texas accent. Okay, that's why.
Yeah, but I moved here to Dallas when I was 9.
Okay, so that's pretty much Dallas. You grew up here.
Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much.
And then I want to skip a little bit. Okay, so you didn't start playing until you were 12, you said?
Yeah.
When's the first time you picked up a violin?
12.
So you had never even considered it, or you thought about it? Like, I don't understand how you didn't.
Well, when I was about, I guess I was maybe 5 or 6, I saw somebody on TV playing the violin, and they were playing it really badly. It was a sitcom, and some kid was playing a violin, and the whole joke was that it sounded horrible. But seeing that kid play the violin, oh my gosh, it just shot this passion through me that never left me. I wanted to play the violin, but we lived in Mississippi. My parents didn't know exactly, how to get a little kid started in violin. I don't know. They just never got me a violin. They never got me into lessons. And then finally, after we moved here to Dallas, just the public school system, when you're 12, you get to pick an instrument. And I was like, oh my God, yes, finally, I can play the violin.
How long was it? Because I know this is something, like, how long is it from the time you picked it up to, like, okay, I can play a song, to, okay, it doesn't suck?
Well, that's different for different people.
Well, for you, obviously.
For me, it's hard to remember, but I practiced so much right from the beginning that I guess it didn't take me too long.
That is so interesting how, like, you were so, like, no one in your family was a musician?
Well, my brothers played guitar, and my dad sort of played a little bit of guitar.
But that wasn't really what inspired you, though.
No.
And then you're playing violin, like, you're playing in school, you're doing all, like, classical pieces, or?
Yeah, mostly classical, sometimes movie music or whatever was cool at the time.
Right. Okay. So then you start going. You're involved at SMU before you're even in college.
Yeah.
And then pick it up from there, I guess.
Yeah, and then in the summers, I was so blessed to go to this music camp that I mentioned earlier, that where I got to study with teachers from Juilliard. I was Sally Thomas and Ann Setzer, who were great teachers at Juilliard, who taught a lot of the great, solo violinists out there in the world.
And were you mostly doing solo, or doing orchestra, like all of it?
Kind of all of it. Chamber music, orchestra, and then when I became a professional violinist, I did all kinds of stuff. Played in symphonies and did a lot of gigging, freelance work, a lot of weddings.
Is there a certain type of music you like to play best on the violin?
Oh, I just love Baroque music, like Bach, Vivaldi. It's kind of like the heavy metal of their time, It's just like so energetic. And I don't know, I just really love Baroque, the Baroque period.
Yeah. Also, I assume that you're mostly playing sheet music. Like, is there any improvising going on too? Or?
Not very much. Not in the classical world.
I didn't think so. I just meant, because you're in Texas and there's Americana, so you could be playing fiddle as opposed to violin.
True. And I have, dabbled in that. But having such a strong, such a vast amount of experience and training with relying on sheet music, I don't know. I've tried the whole improvising thing. It's like my mind is not quick enough. I don't know. I've gotten so dependent, I think, on the written music. That,
what's interesting too is I think I wonder if maybe you didn't burn out as soon because you started later. I mean, it sounds intense, but it's still like you weren't doing it from 3, so it wasn't like you had a lot of stuff going on before you were playing violin.
True. I did get to have a childhood up until then. I mean, I still had a childhood, but
it sounds worse than people that have to like get up and go skating or swimming or gymnastics. It sounds like more.
It is kind of like Olympic type training
the hours
in a way.
Are for sure.
Yeah, because it's just such a difficult instrument to play. I don't think you ever master.
Right.
The violin.
I mean, I might have skipped over this. I might have asked this. What point did you go, you know what? I'm actually good. Like, compared to other people, I'm actually good at this. Like, did you?
Well, I guess after I've been playing for a couple years, and I was always like, kind of the first chair concert master or violinist in the orchestra, and like at school,
Sure.
And I caught on to things a little faster, maybe, than other musicians in classes, and I don't know.
That's cool.
And it was my private lesson teacher when I was about 14 who really who really encouraged me, saying, "You need to be with a better teacher. You've surpassed what I can give you, and I think you need a higher level teacher," which is very nice for a teacher to do.
That's a very good teacher. Yeah.
And so then I, auditioned for his name is Ron Neal, who was at SMU. And
you went to school at SMU too? Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I ended up going to college there.
Okay. Did you know our friend Rob Hudspeth over there? He's sitting in the living room right now.
Yeah, you interviewed Rob a few weeks ago.
I did, and he apparently couldn't get enough because he's trying to.
He's here in the audience
what was he
today.
Offering up? He wanted to.
Warehouse, maybe. You might have seen me there.
Yeah. Well, Rob is older than me, so he was at SMU before I was.
Okay.
We never crossed paths, except for, I think I did see him. He worked at a place called Sound Warehouse back when that place existed next to SMU, and he and I met probably about like 7-8 years ago. But he showed me a picture of when he was younger, and I swear I remember seeing him. He helped me at Sound Warehouse to find some classical music.
Wild.
I remember his.
It was an all classical music.
It was an all classical music at Sound Warehouse.
Wow. Wow, interesting. Not what I expect from Rob, but okay. We all have a past, I
He
guess.
knows a lot about classical music.
I mean,
all kinds of music.
Okay. So you SMU, and then you graduate. I mean, I guess you're doing all kinds of music at SMU as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I majored in music and minored in theater.
So you're already doing a little bit of theater back then.
Yeah, unfortunately, at SMU, when you minor in theater, you really don't get to do a lot of acting.
Oh, because they're putting the majors up.
Found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, the bug was in your head at that point.
It was. In fact, it was in my head even in high school, because I took theater in high school, and something about it I just really loved.
Mm-hmm.
But I was already so involved with music that, I mean, so intensely, as you already know, that I couldn't devote my time to another artistic passion.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's kind of strange because by the time I finally became an actress, which was only, maybe 9
Your bio says 2014.
ago.
So.
Yeah, 9 years ago. By the time I finally took the plunge to become an actress and to devote myself to that fully and to kind of walk away from music, I didn't feel like a beginner actor. It's interesting because I actually spent, at least 20 years reading every book I could on acting, on acting technique, all the various types of techniques, books about how to act for the camera. I mean, everything I could, because I've even though I was so passionate about music and so involved in it, I felt like I always felt something pulling me toward acting.
Okay.
Almost like, well, I've heard it called the whispers, like that your soul is always telling you what you should be doing. As long, you just have to keep yourself quiet enough inside to really listen to what your calling is, where you're being guided. And I always felt something spiritually pulling me toward acting, but I was always too scared. I was always too afraid to, put myself out there. And,
Sure.
And I was so involved with music.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes the issue for people is, I'm too nervous because I've never been on stage. Well, you've been on stage your whole life.
True.
That wasn't what it was.
True.
But okay, I feel like, so wait, you skipped a little bit of your history. We're almost to all acting, but you were in a couple symphonies in the middle there somehow, right?
Yeah. It's very interesting because Dallas Fort Worth has a very rich cultural world to it. Like every suburb literally has its own professional symphony orchestra. There's not just the Dallas Symphony.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people are surprised to know. There's the Irving Symphony. There's the Plano Symphony. There's Las Colinas Symphony. And then even in other parts, there's like Abilene Symphony, and a lot of the same musicians play in all of these symphonies.
Okay.
And some of them are pretty good. I mean, when I was playing in it, Plano Symphony and Irving Symphony, they were rocking.
Yeah, I mean, the talent of musicians in the area in general is great, so it stands to reason that would be true.
Yeah, there are a lot of great musicians. Just like there are a lot of great actors around here, but they're just not known.
Yeah. Wait, so you're doing the what at what point did you go, you know what, I'm gonna try the acting?
Well, it was a series of circumstances, which kind of enabled me to make the switch. It was, I had kids, and so I have 2 kids, and neither of them would go to sleep without mommy laying in the bed with them. And I mean, literally, it was a nightmare for my husband to try. They would not go to sleep if I wasn't with them. So I needed to be home at nights, while they were babies. I didn't have them both at the same time. I'm making it sound like I did. But with my first child, so And symphony rehearsals and concerts are at night. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take a couple years off from the symphony. I'm just going to, I'm going to be here for my kiddos, and help them get to sleep tonight at night. So I stopped orchestras for the first time, and it felt odd. It felt almost like I was betraying everything I'd worked for, but I stopped playing in symphonies. I stopped gigging. I really just didn't play in anything for a long time. And then I started to realize, you know what? I'm free to pursue acting. So I finally realized I have no excuse now to not take the plunge and try this out. So I finally got up the courage and I enrolled in an acting class, and the rest is history.
Okay. So Teresa Bell, I assume.
Yeah, I've studied with teachers all over. I made sure to. I've had bouts where I've studied at various different studios because you really get a lot.
Yeah.
You get different things from different teachers,
Absolutely.
of course. So I've studied with Teresa Bell, and she's awesome, and Glenn Morshower, and I studied the longest at a place called Class Act Dallas. It no longer exists. The teacher passed away, but that felt like a family. And Glenn Morshower's class feels like a family. Really all over. Del Shores he's a playwright and movie director, and I've studied with him and done various workshops and.
It does,
things
but
like
you
that.
did. You came into it like you're a novice actor, but you're not a novice performer. You read all these books. So, like, how quickly were you feeling comfortable and getting roles?
Really quickly, because I'd already literally devoured this book. It's my Bible on acting. It's all about how to act for the camera. So I already knew all the ins and outs about how to be on set, because there is being on a film set. There's more to it than just acting.
A lot more.
You have to know how to act for a camera. It's very different from being in a theater, of course.
Absolutely.
So I already I was shocked because when I got on my first film set, I knew more about how to act for the camera than a lot of people who were there, a lot of the other actors who were there, who had been doing it for a long time. Because I just really, I'm an incessant researcher when I'm interested in something. 20 years of research really made me feel like I wasn't a beginner when I did my first film.
Do you remember your first role?
Yeah. Well, my first lead role, it was actually in a student film for TCU. It's a film called Worth, and still to this day, it's one of my really, really cherished film roles. I played a prostitute. And it was it's not about sex or anything.
Right, it's a person who has that job.
Yes.
I get you. I think I saw that you had 14 student or short films and 2 commercials and 2 films. Is that right?
That was during my first year.
Yeah, your
of
first
acting.
year. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I went really gung ho for my first
you sound
year.
like you're gung on everything. It's impressive. Your focus.
It's true. When I have a passion and I want to do something, and once I finally start doing it, I want to go full bore with it.
Right.
And just give everything of myself to. I don't know. I like to see how much I can accomplish in an area.
Yeah,
I don't know.
sure.
If that makes sense. But.
Maybe. So, I know. I feel like I heard something about Martin Scorsese.
Yes. Yes.
What's that story?
I hope it's okay for me to talk about it. You know, when you're cast in a film, they swear you have to swear to secrecy and not
Oh, the film's not
revealing.
out yet.
It's not out yet, but it's. I mean, it's been 2 years since it was almost 2 years since it was filmed. Year and a half. I would think it's okay.
Well, maybe tell us about the audition process. That's probably okay.
Well, I got a call from my agent, and she said that very, very important casting director had contacted her and said that she wanted to have a Zoom audition with me for a Martin Scorsese film. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay.
Wow.
You bet, I'll be there.
Uh-huh.
So they wanted me to audition for like 2 or 3 different roles. Had a Zoom meeting with Ellen Lewis is the casting director, and she's cast a lot of Martin Scorsese's films. Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, The Irishman, a lot of Woody Allen films. I mean, she's
big time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt so honored to get to act for her. Had a Zoom meeting, read for a couple different roles, and then, and afterwards, a long time goes by, you don't hear anything, and that's common.
Mm-hmm.
As an actor, you learn to just, after you do an audition, you put it aside, you move on to the next thing. You don't think about it too much.
Yeah, you try anyway.
Yeah. And if you don't hear anything, it means you didn't get it, and that's fine. You're already focusing on the next thing in front of you.
It's a very healthy approach. I didn't have that.
Yes. Because if
Tried,
you don't
couldn't-
have that attitude, it'll
do
eat
it.
you alive, and
Yeah.
you just fall into depression.
Right.
But anyways, a long time passed, and I just spent my time feeling grateful for that opportunity. And but then I got another call from my agent. She said, Ellen Lewis wants to meet with you again for you to read for another role. And and that's always a great sign.
Yeah.
Anytime a casting director calls you back, even if you didn't get the part the first time or whatever, or even if they're calling you to audition for a completely different project, that's always a wonderful sign.
Yeah.
It means they liked what they saw, even
Yeah.
if you weren't right for the part, even if you didn't get that role, it means they were impressed with your work.
There's
So
something
that's
about you they like.
very good.
It's huge.
But this was to read for the same movie. Killers of the Flower Moon is what the movie is.
Okay.
So I met with her and her casting assistant and read for maybe 2 more roles. I can't remember. Anyway, and, then when it was over, put it aside in my mind. I didn't think about it anymore. I'm on to the next thing. And then a few weeks later, maybe a month later, got an email from my agent saying I'd booked a, and it wasn't for, I didn't book any of the roles that I auditioned for.
Huh.
In fact, the role that I got, it was a non-speaking role, but I'm in a scene with a character who I did read for. I auditioned for, but I didn't get. And originally, when I auditioned for this character who's in this scene, there was no other actress in the scene. But now,
They added you in.
yeah, it's like
basically.
they added
They wanted to put you in it
non-speaking
somewhere.
role in the same
Yeah.
scene, and that was me. And I spent 3 months going back and forth to Oklahoma, and
3 months. So
Yeah,
it was a long scene, or there's more than one scene?
well,
Oh, you can't talk about all this stuff yet?
no.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's okay. It's a non-speaking role. My scene is probably 10 seconds long in the movie, but I was lucky enough to where my scene was a scene. There's a term in the film industry. It's called for a certain scene, it's called the cover set. And that is the scene. It's usually kind of maybe a lesser important scene. I don't know. But it's on the schedule. It's put on the schedule as an alternate shooting option for like, you have your main scenes that are scheduled to be shot. But if some of those are like an outdoor scene where it might rain that day, if weather doesn't permit for you to film that scene that day, then they'll go they'll go and film the cover set scene, which is it's usually an indoor scene. Nothing's going to affect.
So it's sort of like a on standby if we can't do our.
Yes.
Right.
And luckily I was on the on standby scene.
So they just kept bringing you up?
Yeah, they would bring me up. I'd they'd say, we might get to your scene today, we might not, just.
And how many, 3 months?
Yeah. The first time I went up there, I stayed for 3 weeks in a hotel and
wow.
And just waited. And finally they said, okay, we're going to send you home for a bit because we haven't gotten to your scene yet. And so they sent me home, and then a few weeks later went back up, and it's great to be a part of the cover set scene because
you made a lot more money.
I made a lot more money than people.
But also, you're hanging out with some of these crew people.
Oh yeah, because they would put me. I would be on set some of those days. They would get me in full costume, full makeup, full, the hair, everything, and we'd be ready to shoot.
Like you're literally on
literally on
standby.
set, yeah. And the people I got to meet was just such a wonderful experience. Because the lady doing the hair, she personally cuts Martin Scorsese's hair.
Yeah, she's got stories probably.
I looked up everybody's IMDb pages,
Right.
And seeing who my makeup artist, what project she's worked on,
smart.
like Fear of the Walking Dead,
Yeah.
And the hairdresser, she's done Ben Affleck's hair and just all these people, and I'm thinking I'm sitting in her chair. Wow,
that was a really healthy
great.
Perspective on all of it, I gotta say. And it's funny thinking back to what you were saying about people don't realize what it is to be on a film or set. For me, it was like I only had one role. It was like I was an extra regular on Less Than Perfect TV show with Sarah Rue, and man, the day that I did it, I was just like sitting in my trailer all day, and by the time I got to do my one line, I was like, I barely even know what I'm doing anymore. Like, what day is it?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of waiting.
Yeah, hurry up and wait. That's the
hurry
thing.
and wait. Exactly.
Yeah, but at least you're getting paid for it. That's
true.
Not bad.
True.
But I get it. You want to do your thing. Any other roles that are memorable that?
Let's see. Well, yeah. I've been on a couple television shows, like ones that are shot here in Dallas, like Murder Made Me Famous and Scandal Made Me Famous, and I got. Strangely enough, I've been cast as a prostitute. My best projects. I'm a prostitute in Martin Scorsese's film. I was a prostitute in Murder Made Me Famous. I was a prostitute.
Maybe I'm naive. Maybe there are tons of prostitutes rocking around. It just seems like there's more prostitute roles than there are prostitutes sometimes.
I know.
Am I wrong?
I know. Yeah. So in Murder Made Me Famous, it was a Jack the Ripper episode.
Oh.
So it was, all done. It was a period piece. So all done in the time. I was one of the prostitutes who got murdered, and it was gorily gruesome.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Here's another side kind of question. So, you seem pretty entrenched in the area. Do you have any plans to maybe go further away from Dallas to act, or you just want to make it happen here?
About a year ago, I was heavily considering moving to Georgia.
There's a lot of
because
filming
there's
there.
so much going on there. But and I would have done that if I hadn't had kids. My eldest is so attached to his friends, and I don't know. Growing up, I had a dad who moved me, to another state, and I know how traumatic that was on me and my brothers at the time, and I can't. I don't know. As much as I love acting, I love my kid more, and I want.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it would really be traumatic.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's enough work here for an actor?
Oh gosh, it comes and goes. I mean, I do. I'm so grateful to have an agent, an amazingly wonderful agent. I'm with Linda McAllister.
Oh, yeah.
And, so I do get to audition for, TV shows that are shooting in New Mexico. And
Right. Is Shreveport still active? Shreveport, Louisiana, they still doing stuff there?
Yes, I think so.
Not so
I don't
much,
know.
I
I don't
guess.
really hear as much. Oklahoma is the big hub these days. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of auditions for Oklahoma, and then I always get them from New Mexico.
Right.
I'm sure they probably lean toward hiring whoever's local up there more often than not. Maybe not. I might be wrong.
Right. Well,
But
interesting.
I don't
didn't
know.
realize that about Oklahoma. But I guess they're doing like the Yellowstones and stuff like that.
Yeah. Tulsa King.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then I think, I guess it's not happening where you did podcasts. Like, what other projects do you have like going or had been going?
Well, my good friend Rob Hudspeth and I, we've got some stuff in the works.
Okay.
Just like fun social media stuff, you
Cool.
know, little 20 second to 1 minute videos that are just comedic goofball
Oh, nice.
stuff.
Oh, send some over. We'll post some of that. We'll post some of that when you guys are ready.
Oh my gosh, good.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Is there anything else coming up? Or
There's a film called Wicked Season that does it have distribution? I'm asking my friend Rob here, who's
should have got Rob on mic.
and my acting buddy Rob and I we play some gruesome monsters in that film, and
He plays a lot of that. It's like, look, the monster and the prostitute. There's maybe a film out there. Like one of your skits,
we should do a
possibly.
movie of
So I'm hearing that you've got 2 films coming up.
Yeah, there are 2 short films that. Hey, so this is some good advice for actors out there who are listening. Make sure that you keep posting on social media about what projects you're involved in. I am terrible about self-promoting.
It's huge though nowadays.
I finally, all I did a couple weeks ago was I posted some pictures of myself at a film premiere for a film that I was in, and a little action film. And just from making that post, I had 2 local filmmakers contact me saying, "Hey, I saw your post. You know, it kept me it kept you fresh in my mind, and I'm looking to cast a film that I'm doing, and I'd love for you to be in it." So I've got 2 gigs off of just making a Facebook post. So
yeah, that's important to like keep
Yeah.
it. Is there a crossroads of where your music and your acting life kind of merged?
yeah, and that was something I never actually expected to happen. I don't know why. I've done the music for the soundtrack of 2 films now, and I've been asked to do it for another one, a third one. So the one I've done recently is a film called Incubus: New Beginnings. It's a little horror film. It's out right now. Is it out? I think ITN distribution. But I was asked to compose some pieces, some violin pieces for it, and then also perform them for the soundtrack.
Wow.
At the time, I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to compose. I've always been a performer. I've never been a composer. How am I trying to say this? Once you allow yourself to be more open to crossing into a new venue a new territory that you've never explored before, it just kind of comes to you. I don't know. The music just came to me, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like we get in our own way more than anything else.
We do. Our thoughts, our doubts, our self-talk, it all gets in the way. And
Yeah. Last question for you. Dream role. Like if you could play like a real person or just like a type of character, what would it be?
it would be someone who has multiple personality disorder.
Oh.
A film where I can just actually just have immediately transform into another, where I can play multiple personalities in the same film. And I just love the idea of
Yeah,
that.
cool. Wow, you got some skits to write, apparently. Kristen, thank you for coming over and sitting down with me.
Aw.
We're looking forward to all your projects.
Thank you.
And yeah, it was a good one.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
I'd like to thank my guest, Kristen Keith. You can see her in the upcoming film Killers of the Flower Moon, as well as the show Fairwood on the Crackle Network. Theme song Unstoppable by Celine Narala. You can listen to the Dallas Famous podcast every week on Deep Ellum Radio, Sundays and Tuesdays at 1 p.m., and then again on all the podcast places. Thanks again for tuning in.